Charter and rules, I'd like to call the meeting to order, this being April 12th, 6:30 p.m. With me, I have Council President McGee and Councilor Greeny. Also attending, I have Councilor Tallman, Councilor McGivern. If there's anybody else, speak up. That's all that I see for now. Oh, and Councilor Bartley. Thank you for attending. Once we take up the first item, we do have Jordan Lemieux with us. He is here as the facilitator for the general meeting of the public for item 1. So
Motion
the
to go
meeting
to
is
item
called
1.
to order, and I would entertain the motion to take up item 1, and if the committee would, 1B. And item 2 as a package.
So take 1. So you said 1, 1B, and 2 as a package? Or
Yes, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So item 1A is a petition calling for the resignation of Mayor Alex Morse, as well as calling on the City Council to pass a resolution calling for the resignation of Mayor Alex Morse. This item was tabled on March 15th. Item 1B is a letter from the City Solicitor, Crystal Barnes, regarding the procedure and requirements of a citizen's petition. And item 2 is a communication from UMass Amherst because we received an updated final investigative report on the Alex Morse matter from UMass Amherst, Saul Weing Arnstein Lehr. So those items are now before us. And with us, we have Jordan Lemieux, a Holyoke citizen, who is speaking and the liaison on behalf of the signers of the petition. And I will read what the petitioners actually submitted to the council, and then I will give the floor to Mr. Lemieux. We, the undersigned registered voters of Holyoke, call for the resignation of Mayor Alex B. Morse and petition the Honorable City Council to pass a resolution calling for the resignation of Mayor Alex B. Morse. We seek this based on the actions of inappropriate sexual conduct by Alex B. Morse, Mayor, City of Holyoke. He is no longer able to effectively and credibly serve as mayor. We further request the Holyoke City Council to call for a general meeting of citizens to discuss the above stated purpose pursuant to Section 8 of the Holyoke City Charter and the Massachusetts State Constitution. And it was signed by a great number of Holyoke residents. And this was some time ago at this point in time. So Mr. Lemieux, I will give you the floor. And I will also ask Jeffrey to check to see if there are any other people that are in the queue that wish to speak on this matter, as this is the public meeting of the citizens pursuant to the petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bacon. And I'd like to just congratulate Councilor Murphy and thank Councilor McGee for filling in for the 2 weeks, Councilor Tallman. And just say hi to Councilor McGivern, Councilor Bartley, Councilor Greeny. It's kind of a moot point now, calling for Alex's resignation since he saw fit to leave the city of Holyoke and go to Provincetown, and wish Provincetown the best of luck. I did have a prepared statement, and the more I kept going through the final report, which I do have in front of me, it just got very lengthy. So to just cut it down, I'm just going to kind of sum it up. When the report was first released, the former mayor came right out and said it exonerated him of all charges. The only thing he was, if you want to say exonerated from, was that it wasn't the letter of the law for the UMass policy, that he, violated students or, violated the policy in having sexual relations with students that he didn't have control over in the classroom or academically. True, he didn't do it, but if you read through the reports and some of the exhibits and some of the statements from the witnesses, especially the ones that were made uncomfortable, he definitely, and he admits to having, sexual relations with students. And all along he said they were consensual and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is fine. Okay, consensual, no problems. However, how about moral? How about just morals? How about having some morals not to have sex with students? Many of them, voiced or made their opinion on how uncomfortable they were. Alex's first statement, he said he'd fully cooperate with the investigation from UMass. And then on advice of lawyer, he didn't cooperate at all. He refused to answer questions. He refused to be interviewed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in my eye, this put a very black eye for the city of Holyoke. He spent over $300,000 for a firm to kind of put a spin on this. And right away he came out and he blamed, the Neil campaign of setting them up and orchestrating this whole thing. And right away, and I can tell you, as soon as this broke, I got phone calls saying, "Do I know what's going on?" And I had no idea, other than what we all heard. But even in his final statement before he left for Provincetown, he tried to flip it again, and use it as a Neil thing. Excuse me. I just find it, that the city really has to do something, to institute something where, a mayor gets, and this is my opinion and others, that gets this out of control, where he just more or less threw mud at this whole city. He put us all in a bad light by doing this. And, I know, it was consensual and all that, but I'm just saying, let's have some morals. And that's about it. If, I'd really like to see the city take some kind of steps so that, God forbid something like this happens in the future, or, a mayor goes this far out of control, everybody says what a great job he did. Well, if you look at his record, and I tried to catch him on it at one of his public hearings, I'd ask the council, and, you can sit on this. I'm not looking for an answer tonight, but is there any way that non-disclosure with a former city solicitor can be dissolved now? He is not mayor. He's not a representative of the city. Hate to ask you, Mr. Acting Mayor Murphy, but, is there anything? Because I know that ruined her career. It really did. It hurt her. And, I know the rumors are out there, and that's all they are, is rumors. If there's anything the city could do just to shine some light on it. I mean, I find it, and I found it when it was going on, and he was saying, "No, I'm not telling you. I just spent anywhere from, I can't remember the exact figures, but I know it went up to $70,000 for a full salary, of the citizens' money." And I'm not going to tell you a thing. So, maybe that. And there are just the Christmas tree fiasco, threats. He was great at getting his campaign to make threats. And, before, and I've been chastised for saying this before, but I was on the receiving end of one of his threats, not directly. He went through a third party, former city employee, to tell me that I better watch who I, hang with and who I vote for. So that shouldn't be coming from a mayor. I mean, you all know me, I really don't have a filter. But when I yelled at, I get yelled at, okay, no big problem. You know, we can talk afterwards. But that's about all I got to say on this matter. I just, you know, I've just been sitting on it and sitting on it. And if you notice, I've been very quiet. But I think this, you know, it was a black eye to the city. It really was, you know, and you can say he was exonerated. No, he was found not exonerated, but he didn't violate the exact rules because he didn't actually teach the students. But with all the sexual harassment and relation classes I had to take in Holyoke, if you make one person feel uncomfortable, then that's sexual harassment. And there were students that said, and you know, God, well, okay, so that's about it. I've had my say, and thank you for listening. And again, Council Murphy, you weren't on camera before, but congratulations on your.
Thank you, George.
So,
And I'll try to make sure that
Thank,
you can be proud of any mayor that you have from now on.
thank you. Thanks.
thank you, Jordan Lemieux.
Thank you.
Jeffrey, is there anybody else in the room that is seeking to be heard on this agenda item?
Nobody's raised their hand, but they can by hitting participants, and then they should have the option come up with their name. So if they highlight their name, go over that, and a raise hand button should come up. Also, if they're joining on phone, they can raise their hand by hitting *9 on their phone.
Okay, I'm not seeing anybody at this time. I'll just make a couple brief comments, and if anybody comes in during that, we will hear them, and otherwise we will close on this matter. I just would like to make 2 brief comments, perhaps 3, relative to this sad chapter for our city. One, I think what needed to be said was said by the University of Massachusetts when they declined to continue to have Mayor Morse teach at our esteemed university at the Amherst campus. That was a serious decision made by them in light of his conduct. The second comment that I would make is I applaud the students for the courage that they exhibited in bringing forth this matter. I believe they tried to bring it to the proper authorities. I believe it was a difficult thing for them to do. And I was surprised at this day and age to sort of see the victims being blamed. So I think that was a very difficult thing for students that were over 10 years younger than a person of power and influence over them in a political arena as well as a teaching arena. And I hope students all over are not chilled by the claims of being exonerated. I think their claims had legitimacy. I think they were serious, and I'm glad they had the courage to bring them forth. And so I'm just happy this chapter is behind us. I'm glad, as the third comment, that our citizens did speak up and try to have some accountability here in our city for our great city and for our great citizens. So I thank everyone who participated. I'm not seeing anybody else who wishes to speak in the moment. And so at this time, I believe it would be appropriate for me to entertain a motion from the committee relative to these items.
Motion that's complied with, you want that?
I think that would make sense.
And that's all 3, right? Took them up as a
Yes.
package. So motion that all 3 have been complied with.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. And I want to note that Counselor Murphy is here also. I don't think I saw you in the first round there.
Phone was ringing.
Okay. So I would now like to enter. Okay, so relative to item 3, this matter is tabled from March 15th. However, I do not have any language from legal yet, and Counselor Sullivan has indicated to me that he does not at this time either. So I think we should just leave that on the table until we have some language. So I would like to entertain a motion to take up item 4.
Motion to go to item 4 and take off the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 4 is an order that the city council vote to place the following question on the ballot as a binding referendum. Should the city treasurer be changed from an elected position to an appointed position that combines the duties of treasurer and tax collector? So I'm taking this up to get a sense from the committee, but certainly we're going to need legal to weigh in on this relative to language and that we're meeting the charter and the state regs on this procedurally also. So
Madam
Councilor
Chair.
Rainey.
Yeah, just quickly on this issue, I certainly am opposed to, once again, taking an elected official in the city and moving it to a appointed position. We have enough appointments in the city. Of course, the citizens would have to decide if it's a binding referendum, but my vote on it would be no. I believe that the city treasurer should be an elected official, and as far as the tax collector is concerned, that could become part of the city treasurer's office. Anyways, that's my feeling on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the committee? I don't see anyone on the committee wishing to speak. I see Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Councilor Graney. I think, first of all, I don't think this is, to put this on the ballot in November when we're having an election to elect the treasurer would seem to be bad timing. So we'd have somebody running for treasurer, and then if the choice was that they no longer would be elected, then what happens? So that would be one thing, one concern I would have. But I also agree with, and when I saw this, not knowing if I was going to be chosen, but if I was going to be chosen, one of the things that I would look at would be the discussion, could those positions be combined under an elected treasurer? And I will certainly be meeting with the treasurer and the tax collector's office to see what they think on that and get their professional opinion in terms of whether or not we can do it, be effective at doing it, and still have an elected treasurer. So that's where I would be at this point. I just think it would be very difficult to put this on a ballot and have somebody run and then be told, well, it's going to be an appointed position from now on.
Thank you. So the committee could also make a request to legal to weigh in on that very question that you have just raised as to whether, so I'd like to entertain a motion from a member of the committee to refer to legal on this question.
Yeah, Councilor Thomas has a question before I make a motion, or?
Okay, we can hold off for a minute, but please let's not forget it in discussion.
No,
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's important that we look at that, combining those two positions, whether it has to be a change down the road. I think it's prudent to get the law department to weigh in, but if we gave those two positions a little bigger salary and combine those as a collector treasurer, I think that'd be something that could see some savings down the road for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may quickly, Councilor
McGee.
Yeah, we've taken this on before. I filed the original one to this in the sense of combining the two offices, and we did just a general question to the voters. It didn't pass. This is looking to change it. Other communities do have a combined office of treasurer and collector, so it's not uncommon. I do believe your motion, and I will make that motion, that the legal department see if we can combine them if it's still an elected position. And what is the timing in order to get a ballot question out there? I do believe we might be past that timing. I could be wrong, but I know there is some timelines to it. So I'll make a motion to have legal weigh in on those two issues before we can take it up.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So we're referring to legal to weigh in on, can we combine the collector with the elected treasurer position? And or can we proceed in the way that the order is written in terms of timing?
Correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion on item 5.
Go to item 5, take off the table.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Ordered that the city council administrative assistant appointment be a 2-year appointment that coincides with city council term. Counselor McGee?
Yeah, so we brought this up once before. We had a discussion on it, and as we now see, I think there's only 2 positions that I'm aware of. One is the emergency management, which is a yearly thing, and then the city admin, which is a yearly appointment. I was just trying to make it easier for whoever our admin is to just go with the council. So every 2 years, that way we're not taking it up every January. And then every January we're getting letters from our city admin saying, I'd like to stay. I thought I'd just make it a little more streamlined. That was the thought here.
Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Counselor Greenie?
Yeah, I don't think that this is something that is broken. I think that the reappointment of the admin assistant every year gives the city council a handle on the exact performance of the duties of the administrative assistant. It is a yearly evaluation process to a very, very important position. And this position just received a substantial increase from the city council. So, the individual that's there now, is fine. He's doing a fine job. But, once again, we don't know how long that he will stay, if there will be other applicants for this job in the future. And I think it's a situation, if it's not broken, I don't think that we should have to fix it. And then again, after the new mayor, the mayor comes in, or the new city council comes in, they could probably make that decision themselves. But I would rather stay with the status quo because I don't think it's broken. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to weigh in on this one from the point of view that we have at least 3 members of our current sitting council who will no longer be here in the next council, which is a significant number. And so it seems to me that it might be better left to the next sitting council from my perspective. But I'll entertain a motion if people want to table it for the future council, or whatever your pleasure.
Councilor McGivern has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Councilor Bacon. Just like to weigh in that I'd be in favor and have been in favor of making this a 2-year term. We're at the end of our term, and I think the 2-year term would start at the beginning of the next term and coincide with the city council gets elected. It also means that at that time the new city council would appoint the administrator that they wish to work with for the next 2 years. I think continuity is important. People who come with the skills, and we've been lucky. Dave Welch, who became our first administrative assistant while he was still performing the duties of the city messenger, is the beginning of this. Ryan Allen, who was our only administrative assistant until he took a new position with the DPW, and now, of course, Jeffrey Anderson Burgos is performing, commend the way, our administrative assistant is performing currently. So I think the timing is perfect to do this, and it would leave it up to the next city council at the end of our term. The next term for this position would be 2 years, and the new city council would be in a position to elect the administrator for the first 2-year term. For many years, the city council president was voted upon once a year, and then it was decided that that was not the way it was supposed to be, that the charter said something different, and the city council president's term became 2 years. Let's do the same thing for our administrative assistant.
Thank you. Councilor Tallman.
Councilor Tallman, you're on mute.
I agree. I agree with Councilor McGivern and Councilor McGee. I think it makes sense to coincide with the, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Coincide with the new council that's coming in January. It just makes a lot of sense to keep that person with the new council that'll be coming in January. So I think it's a great idea. It gives that continuity for the position, and it just makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Another perspective that could be brought to the position is also to make it an at-will position, just like all the other admin positions within the city. I'm not sure if there's any legal review that would need to be taken in either of these developments relative to the relationship of that role with the city council and how it may be the same or differ from other appointments within the city. But that would be another perhaps approach to bring to the admin assistant position. But at the moment, we have the opinions of the committee, which we have heard, and we have the opinions of our fellow counselors. And so,
Madam Chair,
yes, Councilor Greenie.
Whether this is a 2-year position, if it's moved to, there's no guarantee that the admin assistant would stay for the 2 years. Anyways, you know, I mean, it's an at-will position as you speak of. I mean, we lost one administrative assistant midstream. It's not uncommon that the administrative assistant would find a job somewhere else, go somewhere else. So the 2-year term would be moot anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll entertain a motion. We can table it to look into other options. We can make another motion. I'm open to a motion from the committee.
I'll move to table it.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
That's
The
fine.
motion
You table it.
The motion is tabled at this time. Thank you. So I'll entertain motion for item 6.
Motion to go to item 6.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Item 6, ordered that the city charter be amended so that if there is a vacancy in the mayor's office and the president of the city council cannot assume the duties full time, the full council would then select another counselor to assume the role of acting mayor by majority vote of the council. The acting mayor would still continue to represent their constituents as a counselor. So this looks like the language we just passed as a unique and one-time matter. So,
Madam Chair.
I'm just going to let Councilor Murphy speak, and then I'll have you in the queue, Councilor Greenie.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I just filed this to try to make sure that we don't end up having to go to the state legislature if we're ever in the situation again. And it just, I also, after I did it, I thought, what happens if we didn't have a counselor that could do it? So I think it also deserves some more additional thought as to, all right, if that's not there, then where else do we go? And my next thought would be, after the council cannot do it, then that we would go to any of the other elected officials in the city to seek an appointment. But again, I think it's worth studying, but I just want to put us in a situation so that we don't need to get special legislative home rule petition every now and then, and that we just have it in place so that if this ever occurs again, we're already able to deal with it on a timely manner. So that's the only reason I filed it.
Thank you. Councilor Greenie.
Yeah, Councilor Murphy said what I was going to say. What if one of the councilors decides not to step up? Then we have a whole different situation. So I don't know how we would deal with it. The language certainly makes sense to me. It's what we've just done. But the possibility that somebody from the council would not want to step up, you know, so where do we go?
Okay. Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bacon. The other option is that some communities use a vice president. So that's something to possibly think of too. You know, we have the president and the vice president. I'm the couple of towns around us that have that. So if the president of the council can't do it, then the vice president, which sometimes is someone that's been there a while, could step up. So just a thought that's something to
Mhm.
look at with the charter.
Yeah, okay.
you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands. Jeffrey, do you see anybody else that I'm missing?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. I guess for myself, I think for the time being, for folks that step up and want to be considered to be the president, we just need to remind folks that this is something that could happen. And so that's part of that role within our charter, which I think we forget about, because I think, what has it happened now twice in many, many years? So it's a very rare occurrence. But I think that vice president concept is interesting also. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Councilor Bacon. I think one thing that has changed and we need to think about, and I'm not sure if I have the answers this evening, is the 4-year term as mayor. And that makes a big difference on the individual who takes over as acting mayor, unless and of course, a special election I think would be more likely if the mayor left early in the 4-year term.
Right.
So I think the 6 months left in the term and having to have when you get into a 7 or 8 month period, the last year of a 4-year term, doesn't make sense in having a special election. So I think maybe if we focus on the language of when the special election would have to kick in, that would make more sense, to an acting mayor, the president being an acting mayor for 3, 4, 5 months. This year, I think is the example of what this language is about, and we found this language in the state level, is that when you ask someone to be president and then knowing that they might be acting mayor for 8, 9, 10 months, that's
Right.
asking way too much. And that's why we were lucky to have two old folks this evening to choose from, retired old folks, to choose from and to make sense out of it. So I think it's more about the 4-year term and the amount of period for when the special election needs to take place or when the special election shouldn't take place.
Fair point.
Madam Chair,
Greeny.
one more concept too. So if the mayor of the city has a 4-year term and becomes incapacitated early in the term or passes away early in the term, where do we go? Do we go to the president of the president of the city council, or do we just automatically have to hold a special election?
Well, I'm
And
not.
how long? And what would be the interim of the city council president as the mayor?
Right. So in that event, depending when it occurred, the president would be the acting mayor, and then there'd be a special election called right away. Unless in this circumstance we're in now, it was too close to make sense. But again, to Councilor McGivern's point, still quite a long period of time in certain situations for certain people. So anyway, I think this is good initial. Oh, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, Terry. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make a small point. I think this is in order. So, and if it's not in order, then you can correct me. But we had at the prior meeting a couple of appointments, so named, and I don't have a point. I don't have an issue with them. They really have to be. They're really subject to city council approval. So yes. Okay. So I didn't hear the chair say that at the time. So that I just. So, I mean, and this is kind of on point with what Councilor Grandy was saying. So there is in the charter language that contemplates if there's a vacancy due to a sickness or some other disability. So that's discussed in the charter, and we can look it up or send a copy as necessary. So I just want to make, that's a point. I just didn't want to belabor the last meeting any longer than it had to be. But that and I already discussed this with the city council president, the acting mayor, that those nominations are going to be, need to be put before us on the next agenda. So the acting mayor has no authority to make any appointments unless there's city council approval. So I think the charter is pretty well written. I mean, it's really forward-thinking charter, frankly, and it's so impressive. But they didn't contemplate everything, Madam Chair, but they contemplated a lot back then. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands at the moment. It seems like there's been a number of good points raised, and it seems like for now, we could table this and we could all look into a little bit more further information relative to what would be involved if we wanted to create a vice president situation. The other things that we've talked about, I think, are clear that we could do them within the context of putting language forth and making a charter change. But in terms of establishing a new position on the council, I wonder if we would need a motion from the committee to have legal weigh in on that in terms of any procedural requirements, if that was the desire of the committee going forward. Is there an opinion of a committee member in that regard?
Well, Madam Chair, I have a question.
Councilor Greenie.
Just a question to reiterate what Councilor Tallman established earlier, that some local communities have vice presidents, et cetera. Could we ask our administrative assistant to reach out to some of the local townships or local cities to find out what their language is along these lines, so that we have a more knowledge and something concrete in front of us, so that we can take a look at all the issues?
Okay, thank you. Did you hear that, Jeffrey? Councilor McGivern?
To answer your question, as far as creating a vice chair or vice president, that's the simple part. The hard part is if that person is also to be considered in line to take over as acting mayor, or if that person is also in line to take over the duties that are spelled out in the charter, it would have to be a charter change.
Right.
So that's the I think the way we have to look at it.
Right, because that would be, as I'm hearing it proposed, that would be the purpose of it.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we could ask Jeffrey to reach out to other communities. The only issue being we have a rather unique charter from what I understand. And so we might have to have a different approach given how the language is in our charter. So we might need our legal to weigh in just in terms of letting us know what the procedure would be if we wanted to pursue that new role with the ability to take on the acting mayor role. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so do you want to table this with a request to legal and Jeffrey to gather up information to then come back and
possible next steps? Yeah.
Okay. So I'll make that motion.
All right, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll table that for feedback from legal and Jeffrey from the local communities that have a vice president or vice chair. All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda tonight, and I thank you all for your participation. Is there any last business before I accept a motion to adjourn? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Night. Thanks, everybody.